I have no idea what this video is about, but someone is disenfranchised. And I like Paul because he talks a lot. And I like talking back at the person talking. So this is a perfect opportunity for a lot of yapping to occur.
So I've been going back and forth like for the past hour about how exactly I want to talk about this topic and make this video. So I decided to just finally hit record and say, screw it, we'll go with it. So this video is basically about
I have no idea what this could be.
the disenfranchised Yu-Gi-Oh player, or as I've kind of colloquially been calling it, the Yu-Gi-Oh zombie. And
Is this just someone who's
the fact
quit?
that, Konami is not the perfect answer to all of your Yu-Gi-Oh problems and that you have to kind of solve them yourself. So what do I mean by all this? Well, basically, I have encountered in increasing numbers these past few years the sort of Yu-Gi-Oh zombie, which is a player who is dissatisfied with the state of Yu-Gi-Oh for some reason or another, and there are a billion reasons why they can be. Just for a bit of an anecdote, I was traveling to an event like...
Wait, before the anecdote, give us the rest of the definition. So we have a zombie Yu-Gi-Oh player who keeps playing despite the fact that they are hating the game. That's just every Yu-Gi-Oh player.
I'll say like 3-4 months ago, happened to go back card shop in the area. This was several hours away. And as we're walking up to the card shop, I see two other guys leaving the card shop, having this conversation just between themselves about like how like, oh man, there's just like some stupid thing about Yu-Gi-Oh they don't like, right? Like it's just like, oh, this is so dumb, but that's how Yu-Gi-Oh is now. They've completely ruined it, and I can't believe this, whatever, right? And I think they were talking about maybe the way that games end really fast, like, turn 2, the game's over or something. And I realized that that's something that
Me, who just came out of a Cyburst duel.
I actually hear at a lot of card shops and on a lot of online forums and kind of just everywhere, comment sections of Facebook and Twitter posts and everything, where there's this sort of there's this agreed upon and yet unspoken dissatisfaction with the game, whether it's the format, whether it's...
Come on, dude, that's just gamers, right? A universally agreed upon but unspoken rule that the game sucks. That's every game in every single community thinks their own game sucks, right?
the price, whether it's something else
Unspoken,
about Konami, whether it's the people or the meta.
We're very loud about it.
Yu-Gi-Oh is ruined today, and it was better back in the good old days. What exactly are those good old days? It could be a few years ago when you liked Toss format. It could have been, in 2010 in Edison format, or it was Go.
Can I just quickly give an anecdote on what the good old days means? The good old days means back when you had no responsibilities and you had no things to worry and concern yourself with because you were a child. There was no concept of a metagame because social media hadn't accelerated to the point where it's at right now with the readily availability of information. So net decking and optimized deck lists were not really a thing. And so basically people were essentially, and we were also like 10 years old. And so deck lists basically looked like a whole pile of garbage. So it wasn't that the game was that good or anything at the start. It's just that it was this new revolutionary wondrous thing that makes people think the good old days. That is really what it is what that good old days means. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant to the actual gameplay mechanics of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just the memories of that timeline in 2004 that make you feel like the game was better. Even though you probably couldn't even sit down and have a game back then and feel like it was good today. It would probably suck, actually.
Or it was kind of the vague idea of whatever Yu-Gi-Oh! On the playground was back in 2002. And so basically, I have found that this group of player kind of can't really be satisfied, right? They think that maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Was ruined when synchros were introduced, or Xyz, or pendulums, or links, or whatever. Or maybe it was hand...
If you've played for long enough and you're old enough, you will remember that every single time there's a big change of the rules or the game, or a new mechanic, etc., there's always the doom saying game is gone and ruined forever discourse, right? Every single year, every single time there's a new thing being added. And yet, ironically enough, probably synchro might be the most positively looked on extra deck mechanic. I don't think I know anyone who's like, man, I hate synchros. I think it might be the best summoning mechanic. Maybe it's the nostalgia, because that's when people started getting quote-unquote good at the game, because people just have so many cool, iconic, really fun, enjoyable synchro monsters. But I don't know anyone who hates synchros.
Traps that ruin things, floodgates that ruin things. And also there's kind of this idea that
we have some XE enjoyers,
just fix this one thing, Yu-Gi-Oh will be fine. People are sort of waiting for the ban list, right? A few months pass, we haven't had a ban list. People get angry at Konami because they're like, well, where's the ban list, Konami?
There's a lot of people who are like, man, just one more ban list, they'll fix the game. Dude, as soon as they get rid of this card, the game's gonna be great. Trust me, bro. As soon as that card is gone, the game's gonna be good. And they've been doing that every single ban list, every single format for like 7 years.
You're letting this horrible format, like kill the game, and it's so terrible, and it feels awful to go to events, and the ban list comes out and people aren't happy with it. And, they're like, what? You didn't even hit the problem, or I can't believe you hit this but not this, or why did you hit my favorite deck? And it reads to me almost as though people are sort of waiting for this magical fix to Yu-Gi-Oh! That's never quite coming. Now, that isn't to say that, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't see constant improvements, right? Like, I think that there are things that I made a video.
What would be a singular thing that you could introduce to the game that would, like, reignite so much excitement and happiness? Like, just one single thing that you could do. I don't know. A full overhaul of, like, products of sorts to make cards cheaper, potentially. Unban Chaos Ruler. Cash prizing. OCG printing policy. It feels like it would probably be something financially related, right? Something that either makes the game cheaper or makes the game more incentivized to be good at it. Financially, right? Like, competitively for financial reasons, maybe. Deleting the game, that would bring a lot of people back, true.
Recently about how I think like, oh, Konami seems to be maybe easing up on printing practices, or maybe they're like hitting floodgates, which a lot of people don't seem to like, or they're hitting the Omni Negate, and that seems to be something that people don't like. But overall, there's not going to be like a ban list that, sort of pleases everyone, and maybe more so than that, there's never going to really be a ban list that like reverts the game back to what you liked most, the format that you wanted.
They could. It would just be like 18 like pages long.
Back, whether that's 2013, 2017, 2008, I don't know. There's never really going to be a ban list that like fixes all the problems. It can't fix all the floodgates, all the hand traps, all the negates, all the
Someone said an EU YCS.
long combos, whatever it is you don't like, whatever toxic thing you feel is ruining the game. No one ban list can quite fix it. And so it feels bad then when I hear players who feel like they're really not enjoying the game. They feel like they're kind of on the fringes. Like they feel disenfranchised. Their favorite mechanic doesn't work anymore. I mean, I hear this from Pendulum players where they're like, wow, Electromite's banned. Konami seems to hate Pendulums. They don't want to give us any of this stuff back. And the new Pendulum archetypes are Pendulum archetypes or whatever. I hear people who, complain about so many things. And it can almost reach a point where it's like, you have to find your own fun in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that to rely on the idea that Konami is going to come in and fix anything with this game in the way that you want them to.
Gonna be real with you, if you are going to have to end up in a situation where you have to like create your own fun, whether that be like creating your own format or creating your own group of friends who like only play the game a certain way, that could be really good. That could work, but that's definitely not a feature for something that's gonna work for everyone. Shout outs to people who do it that way. We've also got Last Card Standing. We have huge fans of the LCS, so that's cool. But if you need to like literally like design your own game basically, but using Yu-Gi-Oh like as a IP, it just feels like maybe it's time to move on. I don't know, right? Like it's kind of what it seems like to me.
Right? Like they're gonna make ban lists, but they're probably not all gonna be like 100% 10 out of 10 bangers for you specifically, and that applies to everybody.
It will if they bring back Block Dragon and Chaos Ruler.
Also, the ban list isn't going to help you like suddenly be the best player at your locals. The best players.
It will if they bring back Block Dragon.
At your card shop are probably running the best decks, and I know there's a lot of discontent around like.
Oh, and if they ban Fenrir, I will be unstoppable.
The idea of people playing the meta, right?
I'm winning worlds if they ban Fenrir and bring back Block Dragon.
Yu-Gi-Oh! But the truth is, that's been something that's existed for ages, right? Like people have always played the best strategies when they're available if you were actually playing in tournaments. And there's the whole kind of concept of like, the playground Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta didn't really exist. It's something that I take some issue with because I do think people like remember what playground Yu-Gi-Oh! Was for them. And I think that was real and valid, but there was always a competitive scene as well. So it feels like it's something where we cannot go back in time and make a perfect Yu-Gi-Oh! So what's the next best thing to do? Well, I've got a few options, and one of them is going to be a little bit harsh, but we'll start with the easier ones, which is, first of all...
He's going to say quit. He's going to say fucking give up. He's going to say leave.
You can accept it all, right? Like, even if you don't like
the opposite,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
I guess.
Works, or you don't like
cry about it, I suppose, is how you could translate that.
Things, you can just have an optimistic glass half full approach and play a deck that came out recently that you do like, and try to push that to Master Rank 1 in Master Duel, or maybe try to get a top with it at a regional even if it feels difficult. And you can embrace, the hand traps or the board breakers or the combos or whatever thing you don't like about Yu-Gi-Oh! Find a way to counter it, or find a way to learn about it, or whatever. And that alone can be fine for you. Conversely, you can sort of find your own fun in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think this is the #1 solution I suggest to people, is if you don't like how the game's
sign
going,
up to the
play an
LCS,
alternative
guys.
format. Play Goat, play Edison, play Trinity, play Domain, play whatever. Play any number of alternate formats.
What is Domain format?
Speed Duel, you can try out Duel Links if you haven't already, try out Master Duel if you haven't already. Try something that you have not played, because if the traditional TCG is not doing it for you, you don't need to, sit here and like force yourself to enjoy it. Because it's just not really worth the stress when another ban list goes by and you don't like it, or
that's probably like the best advice there specifically, by the way. A lot of people, and for many in the community, I feel like a lot of this game is kind of just forcing yourself to enjoy the game, and that's like a really like sad situation to be in, I think, right? I would hope that most people aren't in that situation like that, but that is kind of like a problem for a bunch of people, right? I hope that isn't the case, but if you are literally like in a situation where you're basically forcing yourself to enjoy the game, like honestly, do yourself a favor and do something else. Just try other things and see if you like that more. Go to the gym, go for a run, play a different video game, try a different genre of like video game. You know, do something else and see if you like that more. Because if you're in a situation where you basically feel like you are forced to keep playing, it's rough. But I think a huge portion of that is the sunken cost fallacy, which is I've been playing this game for 15 years. I've got a huge collection. My entire social group, my entire like structure of a network of people is completely tied and pinned down to like a community. If I quit, then I'm detached from that community. I'm basically going to be alone. That right there is probably the biggest reason why a lot of people don't quit. Is that network and that community that they've built up on, and they'll realize, wait, if I have built this Yu-Gi-Oh community of friends for 10 years, if I then quit the game, then I don't have any friends. You know?
Another card is expensive and you don't like it. Like if a card's expensive, like Wanted, Seeker, Sinful Spoils, buy some proxies, play at a kitchen table with your friends. Boom, easy. And then you can wait for the reprints.
Did he just say proxy?
I think that you kind of have to like find your own fun in the sense of like, what do you and your friends agree is most fun to play? Do you want to play with hand traps or not? Find an agreement with that, right? Do something there. And then the final solution that I've been, I go back and forth with like whether or not I want to say this because I realize like I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh influencer or whatever, and so I shouldn't be saying for people to do this. But take a break or quit. If you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, don't feel the need to like.
Oh, he actually did it.
On to this game forever and let it kind of be like live in your head. He really did like a solution or a way forward. So if you truly do not like the printing practices, if you truly do not like the format, and you just feel that Yu-Gi-Oh is not for you anymore, then I think take a break from it. That can be like a 1 month break, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and maybe you'll come back and find that it's.
I'm not quitting. I'm on a permanent break.
Solved or addressed, and you just what it really was a you thing. Like you needed some time away from this game. It can stress you out when your favorite deck isn't getting support and the Banlists isn't doing what you want. And the decks are expensive. Okay, great. You know, invest in another hobby. Find something else to do. Or honestly, you know, if you really feel like Yu-Gi-Oh has gotten that bad, you can even quit. Now, I don't suggest quitting. Obviously, I want people playing Yu-Gi-Oh, sure, but I don't think that you should put yourself through something that you don't like, dealing with a company you don't like, or a game that you feel, you know, just disillusioned with, just because you.
It's pretty harsh, but that's just the truth.
Going on, like you can always quit Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm not saying that
if you find yourself being more
I found more and more players
angry about the gameplay, the product, the way the companies run, the events, all of that together, it comes to the point where it's just like move on.
Some people have been like thinking it as they've watched the video. Is I feel this way sometimes.
DK is just on a break. True.
Yu-Gi-Oh player. I mean, I get on here and complain about Yu-Gi-Oh like every other day on this channel, and like there are things that I really wish would go back to the way that I would prefer them to be, or that the Banlists would just hit the stuff that I wanted to hit, or Konami would just implement these new printing practices and stuff like that, or they would communicate in this way. And I've kind of had to come to terms with the fact that the way I want Yu-Gi-Oh to go isn't necessarily the right way, and it's certainly not the way that it will go. I'm not the person making the, calling the shots. And so the best thing that I can really do is find my own ways to enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh. I've got kind of a house format and group of friends that I play with. I play a lot of Master Duel, and I actually really enjoy that.
House
and
format.
I still find just a lot of joy.
Whoa. Master Duel. Did you say Master Duel?
That's been a really fun way to.
But that game has Maxi.
Playing a lot of old school games like Dark Duel Stories, Forbidden Memories, Sacred Cards, Eternal Duelist Soul. All those.
All right, so I think that's the TLDR at the end here. Is basically
and it's been a
touch grass, go do other things.
My mind away from just here's what's wrong with Yu-Gi-Oh. Here's what's wrong with Yu-Gi-Oh. Here's what's wrong with Yu-Gi-Oh. So I get it.
But yeah, I think that's like basically the main shtick there. Okay, so yeah, Paul's alt channel is honestly low-key one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh channels. It's always bringing up like interesting topics, and he seems to actually structure them pretty well, and does actually provide solutions. Sometimes when I watch other videos and I react to them, they're kind of just like yapping and giving like these big problems and not actually providing any sort of like meaningful like way to address those said problems. But yeah, TLDR, cry about it or embrace it is pretty good advice, unironically. All right, let's peace out on this one.